I like it to fail before we go live.
Yeah, and
OBS
I do
can be
radio.
finicky.
I came out of radio in undergrad and doing a lot of radio in Philly, and so I just said, "Let me do it live." Pardon, let me do it live. I love doing. I'd rather do live.
I love doing live.
There's an
Pre-recorded,
energy.
it's not too bad, but live, you sometimes you get a good guess. You get
Mhm.
someone in there with an interesting question or banter, and I think it can,
And
sometimes it
the
could add a little
and
spice.
if you're streaming to Twitch or YouTube at the same time, then you maybe get some people checking out and commenting,
Oh
talking
yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully not talking too much shit though.
I'll talk it back. We'll talk it back.
We're gonna be dropping a link to Hero of the Prophecy issue number 2.
Yeah, it's just heretheprophecy.com, yeah.
So guys, be sure to check out that link. If you're able to pre-order, we would love to see it, but putting that on Facebook, Twitter, anywhere you could share a link. Word of mouth is 100% free. Cost you absolutely nothing. Share it with your friends, your family. Christmas is coming up. It was Jonathan's birthday a few days ago. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thanks, man.
All right, so we are good. Green across the board, not dropping any frames. I'm good to go as long as you are. All right, let's begin in 3, 2, 1. Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic episode of Keeping It Geekly. It's your Caped Crusader, Cody, and we're hanging out with our new friend, Jonathan London. We're here to break down his brand new book on Kickstarter, Hero of the Prophecy Issue 2, and everything in between. Jumping off the top turnbuckle and diving into the mat. Jonathan, how are you doing? Welcome to the show, man.
I'm good, dude. I'm excited to have this Kickstarter close out for us. We're in the last couple days, and issue 1 had a Kickstarter that was like funded in 4 days, and we were like chilling and thinking about those stretch goals. We are 7 or 8 months later on this Kickstarter. It's a funkier time of year. I didn't want to land it where it ended close to the holidays, where people are thinking about maybe spending their dollars a little more on holiday travel or gifts or this and that. But we also have issue number 3 coming up, and so I didn't want to back the train up, right? Like, I run Geekscape, which is a podcast network, but it also does a lot of creative stuff. And I wanted to put out comics with the brand, and we have more than just Hear the Prophecy to put out. And I remember a couple months ago, I just told my producer, I said, "Hey, man, like, we're trying to get this thing out for the second Kickstarter. I'd love to launch it in September," and it just wasn't going to happen. I said, "We should wait till the early year." And he said, "Yeah, but then we got issue 3, we got these other 2 titles. Um, let's just roll it. Let's if we, let's just try and, hit 5,000, and then let's go to the next Kickstarter that we have a little more prep and time for." And that's kind of the goal, is like I just want to get to 5,000, finish out the Kickstarter, and then roll into the 3 other issues we have in production right now for different books, which is crazy, but um it's fun. Like, issue 2 is I like issue 2 more than issue 1. Issue 1 I really am proud of. You read it. But issue 2 is the one where, like, really kind of like sets the stage for like this being a pro wrestling fantasy book. I love it, man. I just appreciate that people are reading it.
That's awesome. We have our good
Mhm.
friend Tipsy Pickle over on Twitch dropping in. Thank you for joining us. I hope your night is going well. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Jonathan, we
Mhm.
got we talked a little bit backstage,
Mhm.
and it was some awesome banter. I always wish, sometimes I wish I could record that stuff because it's just that backstage banter can just hit so good sometimes. And I really loved kind of everything that went into this. But before we dive into the book itself, let's dive into
Sure.
you as a creator. Where did all this begin for you?
Um, I don't I you know, my idols, like, growing up in high school and stuff, I went to undergrad wanting to do radio, and so my heroes were all David Letterman and, Conan O'Brien, and Greg Kinnear on Talk Soup was a big one for me. So I thought I was gonna do a lot of radio, and I got to school in Philly, got on the radio, started managing the student radio station. We got a show on WXPN 88.5 Philly, and, like, I was really into it, but I wanted to interview people, and not everybody was able to do like an early show or a late show. And I wanted to interview people. I love comics. Like, my hero is also Stan Lee,
Hmm.
and my first job was in a comic shop. Like, comics were always my first love. I cannot draw with a squat, but I would have people from Philly who were involved in comics come onto the show, and a major one was John Arcudi, who co-created The Mask with Doug Monkey. Doug Mankey, and he also did Major Bummer, and we would just hang out, and I just got me talking about stories, and sometimes I would tell stories on the radio, and people would call up and be like, "Hey, I'm visualizing this." We started messing around with video cameras and getting into film, so then I went to film school, and so I kind of put broadcasting down, went into film. In a couple years of being in LA, I missed the broadcasting, but by that point, podcasting had started up, so I started Geekscape '05, '06, and it was just awesome. Having people like, meeting Kevin Smith, having him on a show, Simon Pegg, different people, coming on Geekscape. In the early days, were like, podcasting weren't even a thing. I remember Kevin Smith being like, "How does this work?" And I'm like, "Oh, you record this, you set up an RSS feed." Like, I had to learn a little bit of coding to set up an RSS feed, and it was before you could put it on SoundCloud or put it on any Spotify, any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And Kevin just goes, "I don't have to go to college just to like sell my movies anymore. I'm just gonna start podcasting and stuff." And he continues to just be such a cool dude, and such a positive influence, and great guy. Like, he's a cool dude. And so I've been super blessed with Geekscape, and I actually ended up becoming like Stan's moderator for a couple years, when Stan did LA Comic Con and was starting that up. Like, I was his moderator through the LA Comic Con stuff, and loved being on stage with Stan and interviewing Stan. So like, but it's always been comics. It's always been that geek stuff. That's
Yeah.
the language I speak. So what led to comics here was I wrote Here the Prophecy as a film. We tried to sell it as a film, we tried to sell it as a TV show, we tried to sell it all the different ways. And Here the Prophecy specifically came out of the writer's strike. I was having like a film kind of fall apart. We couldn't outrace the strike with the film, and I was super depressed, and I'm walking around, and Here the Prophecy is 15 plus years old at that point, just a script on my hard drive that I'd written for my brother. And we're walking around the studios, and everybody's pitching their ideas that they would, "Oh, I want to write this, I want to write that." Nobody's getting paid to write right now, so we're just saying like what ideas we're passionate about, and people are like,
Hmm.
"What would you write now that for yourself? What are you gonna write for yourself?" And I said, "I wrote it, dude. It's called Hear the Prophecy, and it's it's a fantasy story about my younger brother who was a WWE wrestler getting transported to an alien world because they see wrestling and they think it's real, and they need to be saved from a evil wizard. So, like Galaxy Quest, they see wrestling, they think it's legit, they think he's the greatest effing fighter there is, and they're like, "We saw you in the arena, you're the greatest fighter." And he's like, "Dude, that was fake, and you summoned me here basically to die at this point." So it's like equal parts like Army of Darkness, Big Trouble Little
Hmm.
China, Galaxy Quest, but I set it in like the Golden Globus kind of world where it's a little Beastmaster and Krull and Wizard of the Lost Kingdoms, Deathstalker, like all those 80s movies that we really loved, but not the good ones, not Conan the Barbarian or Willow. So it's the one that's like, mm, I can see the styrofoam bricks in the arena. I can kind of see like, these sets ain't that great. Like, that's the stuff we liked.
Man, I grew up on wrestling, Attitude Era, right when Stone Cold, right when he turned bald. Right, a lot of people don't realize Stone Cold Steve Austin
Yeah,
used to have long, luscious blonde hair, luscious. And I remember when I found out wrestling was fake, and it broke me more than
is
Santa
it
Claus.
though?
It broke me. Well, yeah, you're right. It's to a degree, it's not.
The
But
choreography is very real. The injuries sustained when the
yeah.
choreography fails is very real. Like, I saw Paul get 14 staples in his head
Oh,
because it
dude,
was
Mankind, too. Some of the stuff he's like endured.
some of that stuff's on purpose though. When you're
Yeah.
doing like, that guy is crazy.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just talking about like accidents
Yeah.
happening. And like, yeah, I remember they took the padding off of a turnbuckle in San Diego, and they were like gonna threaten, "I'm gonna hit you with the metal." And then the next match was my brother's, and they had put the padding back on, but they hadn't tightened it. It was TV and it was live, and people were rushing. And my brother goes through the ropes, and his head just grazes like the exposed bolt, and it just split him
Oh
open, and just blood
no.
crazy. And I'm like, "How the hell am I gonna explain this?" I'm there in person, and every time my brother's head touched the mat, it's like a stamp of just blood,
Mhm.
blood, blood. Got 14 staples in his head that night. And so stuff like that is like, but the choreography, the athleticism, that's the stuff I like about wrestling. It's the storytelling is
Mhm.
and I didn't think anybody was better. I thought Paul was one of the best, and a lot of people. Cody Rhodes was bringing him up the other day. Like a lot of people think that he's one of the best too, and I agree with him. I don't think he got the proper, I don't think he got the proper career at WWE that he deserved for the talent he was and what he was willing to do for that company. And a lot of fans will agree with me. So I wrote a story to cheer him up
Yeah, we
called
were
"You're the
talking
Problem."
backstage about it, and I was really surprised to hear that because just looking up a little bit of research, he tag teamed with Brian Kendrick and became the longest reigning WWE tag team champion since the title's creation, and that's huge. I feel right, or am I wrong?
Is it huge, or is it like or is the company not knowing a storyline, like not having anything else to do with them? You know what I mean? Like maybe they didn't. I feel like as cool as that is it a result of a redundancy born out of writers not knowing what else to do with them, right? Like maybe the attention wasn't on the tag division or the cruiserweights at the time, which you get, right? Like there's priorities, and the priorities are probably whoever's going to sell the t-shirts and the toys, and they might look bigger than a cruiserweight or a tag team, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I as much as I enjoyed that stuff and was, like, super cool that they were tag, I always felt like there's more story that could have been told with that stuff, and they weren't really involved in any stories, which was a problem when Vince's, like, limo blew up, and my brother was backstage in the row of wrestlers as Vince walks to the limo, and he kinda smirks, like, he's like me, we were always little jokesters, and and the camera caught him smiling, and it was an accident, like, my brother was dicking around,
Mhm.
and Vince is walking down for the narrative, and the narrative is he's gonna walk down this row of wrestlers, he's gonna get into his van, and then they cut to the shot of a limo exploding, right? Like, "Oh my god, who was behind it?" And that's the mystery that they were gonna do is who's behind it, and my brother gets caught on camera smiling right as before, like, Vince walks past him, and the audience, like, online is like, "He has something to do with it," and
Oh
he
God.
was never intended to be part of that
Mhm.
storyline because he they were gonna put a marquee name in that stuff, and so I don't think they were very happy with, like, him, like, falling ass backwards into a storyline he wasn't supposed to be in, and they didn't put him in the storyline. I was like, "Guys, the audience is buying into this. They think he's got something to do with this. They're running with it on Red online."
Mhm.
If I was the company, I would've been like, "Sure, let's throw this guy in it. He doesn't have to we don't have to keep him in the storyline for very long, but let's throw him in it and let's just get rid of those rumors online and let's do it, make a part of it." But they never really invested that kind of stuff in my brother, and my brother's one of my favorite people on the whole planet. Like, so, shortly thereafter, as they split ways and I just worried that my brother was gonna fall into a serious depression because like his whole dream was to be in WWE, and so I didn't really know how to help him, man. I was like, "Dude," we'd lost our older brother a couple of years earlier, about 10 years older earlier, uh, about 8, we lost him in '96, and so Paul's my remaining brother, and I just remember being, like, at a loss and seeing I remember him telling me, he's like, "Yeah, I don't think they're gonna renew me. I think that's it," and he goes, "I think that was my childhood dream, and it's over." And I was like, "Oh, hell no. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot deal with this shit." But what can I do? I wrote him a story to cheer him up, and I wrapped it in all the stuff we loved as kids, like comedy and fantasy movies and Army of Darkness and
Mhm.
Big Trouble in Little China, and that was, like, my love letter to my brother, and we went and shot a sizzle reel for it. We shot all this stuff. We tried to sell it to TV. We tried to sell it to film, and people, they wanted, and to their credit, like, the studios or the channels, they were like, "Is this something John Cena would be good in? He'd be great in it." But I wrote it for my brother, and John didn't even know about it. Is this something, can we put something else in it? Or is this something that like this person could be in? Or we don't really get it. Is it like John Carter? Or is it like Flash Gordon? Those don't really do well. We don't get, and it's like they just didn't want to do it. And it's
Yeah.
fine. Uh, it's really hard to sell a movie, and it's even harder to sell a TV show. Um, we had a couple offers. They weren't enough to they really were low offers, but they just weren't enough to do the wrestling properly.
Mhm.
The wrestling had to be cool, and the fantasy had to be believable, but only believable enough to where you see that there's stone bricks in that
Yeah.
arena, right? Like, they gotta you gotta feel like one of those '80s movies. So, after, like, a couple of years, we just moved on to other projects, we started making other things, but Hear the Prophecy was always there because it's the love letter, and so at the strike, I was thinking about I was straight up telling people every day about Hear the Prophecy, and it was the one that people were, like, really receptive to, that they're like, "That is a great pitch, that is a great idea, you need to just make it." And I'm like, it's a fantasy film or
Mhm.
TV show, like, you can't just make those without millions and millions of dollars. My first love, comics. Let me make it a comic, and that's where I just started transitioning the story beats and turning it into a comic, which is pretty different than a film and TV, but the heart is there, the tone's there,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think people are picking up on it. I think people have been like, "Oh, it reminds you of Dark Crystal.
Mhm.
It reminds you of Galaxy Quest. It reminds you of Three Amigos. It reminds you of Beastmaster." Somebody came up to me and said, "I don't wanna tick you off, but it kinda reminded me of, like, those fantasy show movies you'd see, like, late at night
Mhm.
on TV," and I was like, "Oh my god, I can kiss you. That is exactly what I want it to be." Like, those are the best, but on my end, my influences in comics were, and you see it in the comic, like ElfQuest,
Mhm.
some Bone, um, all that stuff. Of course, the Conan and Frazetta stuff, but, you can find that stuff in there, like Sheetara's helmet is Skywise's helmet from ElfQuest, and there's a lot of stuff in there that visually, you're like, "Oh, he's Jonathan's pulling from all these different fantasy references that he loves." And there's some in gaming too, like all the adventure games from LucasArts and, Sierra were important to
Mhm.
me, like King's Quest and Hero's Quest and Monkey Island and those things. The puzzle adventure games were huge, and they all had a sense of humor, so there's a lot of that in the series as well. Because Paul has no faculties, he has no ability to fight. He is not
Yeah.
the hero of the prophecy in any way, shape, or form. He just needs to stay alive and not die.
Mhm.
So he needs to be creative and do some problem solving, and that starts an issue too, like, that's the most fun part is, like, writing how Paul is in these situations where he has the least amount of faculties. Shatara's a great warrior, Finnegan's an okay wizard, Paul's a guy who does flips, and so he better figure it out or he's dead, and that's been the most fun is creatively thinking out, like, ways that he doesn't just immediately get murdered every page.
And we have our good friend Aaron Robowski in chat, creator of Pillars of Creation issue 1. Love the cover. Everyone that is watching, right here is a link to the Kickstarter. We're going to be checking it out in just a few seconds.
Sure.
But you could do yourself a favor by checking it out and backing it. If you're unable to back it, share it with your friends and family. Word of mouth is 100% free. So, I mean, I loved it. Like, we were talking about, I had the chance to read issue 1, and it was such a fun ride. Can you give readers who are tuning in for the first time, hearing about this book, kind of an idea of what issue 1 is about?
Yeah, issue 1 is about this broken planet that's been taken over by an evil wizard. He's corrupted everything, he's enslaved all the different kingdoms, and he's ruling it, and ultimately, you'll find out that he's trying to find a way to make himself a god by stealing magic from everything, and he's forced these custodians of magic who are really based on, like, the mystics from Dark Crystal, but they're owls in my book. And their forests have been burned down. They've been forced to live in caves amongst the cold rocks and eat bugs and stuff like that. And at the beginning of it, you just see these downtrodden people who are looking for any way to survive. But there's a prophecy, and the prophecy is that someone will come from beyond the stars to save them.
Hmm.
Some very few people believe it at this point because things are so grim on this planet. But a young owl named Finnegan believes that he has found this artifact that is supposed to summon the prophesied hero. Meanwhile, on Earth, you have real life pro wrestler Paul London living in a van. His career gone. He is wrestling in gyms and indie shows. Nobody likes him because he's basically owes everybody in town money. He is a scoundrel in the same way that Jack Burton in Big Trouble Little China is a scoundrel, like,
Hmm.
and everybody wants to kill him. You can hear my daughter walking through the background. Hey, sweetie, how are you? And so, and so he gets to the wrestling ring. Half the town, hey, sweetie, how are you? She's just off camera, and she's 16 months of
Hey, she's
amazing.
keeping it geekly too. No
Keeping it
shame in
geekly,
that.
baby. I'm gonna keep doing this, but you can chime in whenever you want because I worship you. Uh, we're talking about your Uncle Paul and his adventures on a far off planet. So basically, Paul gets in a wrestling ring. He's just trying to survive. Finnegan did find the artifact that summons the hero of the prophecy. He turns it on. It cycles through heroes from across the cosmos, all great warriors. But then he sees this wrestling and he says, "Look at how it fights in the arena! Like they cheer for it. Like he's taking on 8 people at once. Like he's
Hmm.
the best fighter there is." And he summons them. It's kayfabe. And then Paul shows up. He's like, I ain't the guy, dude. I'm not a real fighter. This is wrestling. It's pantomime." And that's like issue 2 is basically like, I'm gonna break it to you guys. It's pantomime. Send my ass home. And they're like, no, the artifact's out of juice. We had one shot to summon
Oh
someone, and we
no.
summoned you. And Sheetara just immediately wants to kill him. In issue 2, she's like, well, if you're no use to us, like I'm gonna kill you. Like you're worthless. Like you're dead
Hmm.
weight. And I love Sheetara because she's just driven by revenge. Like she doesn't care about the prophecy. She doesn't care about saving anyone. This kind of bad guy who wears a skull mask, who's not the evil wizard, but kind of the general underneath him, killed her father and took his sword. And he goes around terrorizing people with her father's sword, which is a complete dishonor and disgrace. And she says, I don't care if I die. I don't have hopes, but I want that sword,
Yeah.
and I don't want it used for this. And I want that sword. And my dying breath will be having that sword in my hand. She's driven by revenge. She's driven by anger. Um, Finnegan's driven by hope. He's young. He survives the forest getting burned down, which you see in issue 2. And then this idiot shows up. This complete idiot shows up. No offense, Paul, I love you, but it's a bit of an exaggeration. This buffoon shows up who's a charlatan, and the 3 of them have to work together to get it to work.
Hmm.
And so issue 1 is the setup. Issue 2 is where they realize he's a fraud, but they get themselves in issue 2 in a situation where he stays alive miraculously using his flips and his acrobatics and things. And he is like, I can figure this out.
Hmm.
You know, they're fighting a Cyclops. And Shitara's like, let me just kill it and we'll move on. And he's like, no more killing. Like, we can figure this out. And at the end of it, and I don't mean to spoil issue 2, it's got a lot of stuff in it. This is just the aspect that is the crux of the book. Shitara says, listen, like we gotta, if you're gonna rejuice that artifact and send you home, if I'm gonna get the sword back, we're gonna have to raise an army. And we need to start pitting people to believe like this is what we're gonna do. Even if you're not the hero of the prophecy, which you're fucking not, because you're not, um, we're gonna pretend like you are the hero of the prophecy.
Hmm.
I'll do the fighting because I'm the best fighter there is. I'm a badass, but nobody's gonna follow me because I'm a woman. That guy's a little magician. He's just barely hatched a few years ago. He barely knows magic, but he can mask it a little bit. But nobody's gonna follow him because he's basically a minority. He's a little owl guy. And the nobody follows the owls anymore. They're disgraced. They'll follow you, white savior dude from another planet, because they think they're the hero of prophecy. So just don't die.
Hmm.
And we're gonna go around and kayfabe some quests. So really, like issue 2 is where they set up the whole kayfabe idea of if all you know how to do is pantomime fighting, that's all you
Hmm.
have to do. I'll do the fighting, he'll do the magic, you just stay alive, and we're gonna kayfabe that you're this great warrior, build an army around it, and march that to the castle. So in that way, the wrestling stuff really works
Hmm.
because we just have to convince everybody you're amazing.
I love it. I
And
love
then
it. So
then there's issue 3 where it's like, oh, is it gonna be that easy? No. No. Issue 3 goes Empire Strikes Back real fast.
so let's go ahead. We're gonna pull up the
Sure.
campaign for issue 2. What was Paul's initial reaction when he found out about Hero of the Prophecy?
Well, Paul's been a part of Hear the Prophecy the entire time. So, like, He knows it's a love letter. He knows I go hard on him, in places because we think that's funny. We think that screw ups are funny, and Paul knows he's an exaggeration. Paul's wonderful, and he's smart and he's creative, and Paul does a Stan Lee pass on everything. So like, I write everything full script. The artist comes back, and I have great interactions with the artists, and I give them some creative leeway for sure because um, if I don't, it's just like, why hire Tom Hoskison or some of these wonderful
Yeah.
artists if you're not going to give them some running room to do some real cool creative stuff and surprise you, right? And then Paul does a pass at the end where he'll clean up some of the wrestling dialogue. He'll make, but Paul also works on the other characters. Like, I love co-writing this book. So keep in mind, Paul has known about this project since it was a film script, since it was an outline, since it was a TV project, and now as a comic book. He's involved the entire time, and when we're still working on the book, even like 15 years into this project, now that it's actually going to audiences and people are actually enjoying it and reading it, he's like, "I can't believe you're doing this." And wow, you sure you're doing all this work for me and all this stuff? And I said, "No, dude, I'm doing it for us." Like, it's a love letter to our
I love that.
relationship.
Yeah.
You are my remaining brother on this side of the dirt, and I want you to know how much I love you. It doesn't hurt my career as a writer. It doesn't hurt my career as a storyteller to have more stuff out there. And this is a story that was burning in me, and I don't know. I needed to tell it because I was going effing crazy
Hmm.
without it being in front of people because I really believe in the story. I really believe um, in a story about hope and second chances and desperate people who find each other and are each other's solutions and then it's comedy and it's funny. It's got a lot of ridiculousness in it. So it's all these things, and it needed to be told.
So,
So
who is the creative team involved with this project? Can we give a shout out to him?
the greatest, I mean, Tom Hoskison took over on issue 2, and I love Marcelo's work on issue 1. The acting was great on his characters. He does this beautiful to paper pencil and ink, and then he does the inks, and then he takes
Hmm.
water and he ink wash a lot of that stuff. The colors are Vittorio Stone, who you may know from Canto and some work. He does he does a book for Image right now and all this stuff. I just wanted to hire people who are better than me as storytellers, and I think that's important. No, I'm
It
being
is. It
totally
is.
sincere. It's the same stuff I do as filmmakers. I was like, let me get a DP that's better than me. Let me get people who are better than me because you learn from them, and
Hmm.
and it helps the project. And I want the project to be competitive. I want people to look at the stuff on the indie shelf or on any of the comic shelves and be like, "Hey, this here the prophecy stuff can go toe to toe with most of the comics out there." I don't, and so I used Marcel in the first one, and I loved his just the Frazetta style fantasy stuff, and he just has great character acting. And then when that relationship split after issue 1, it was just a lot of work. It was tough on Marcelo. We
Did he
move
turn
on.
heel?
What's that?
Did he
He
turn
didn't he
heel?
he didn't turn heel, but I wasn't hard, I'm not, like, cracking a whip. I know what I'm paying people. It's tough at an indie rate to, you can see where our Kickstarter landed and how much I'm gonna be able to pay people, and I pay people before we make the book. Like, the book is done, and we use the Kickstarter to pay ourselves back. So, I can only pay people so much.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't driving anybody. It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and making comics with so little financial return is really hard. And Marcelo was awesome, but I think he just put out another book and he's just hungry for other stuff. And that, and Tom was somebody that I found online, and he had this cool 3-page Wonder Woman sample, and I sent it to Winston Gambro, who helped me put the whole book together, who is amazing, and he has a new book with David Bohr. It's finishing a Kickstarter as well, called Moloch the Damned. And Winston really saved my butt because I'd never put out a comic soup to nuts before. I'd written comics for other people, but I never done a soup to nuts comic
Hmm.
where I'm in charge of like making sure all this stuff is. And Winston just saved me. He like came in, he's like, send me the art, send me the lettered pages from Micah Myers, and I'll just make sure that it has a front cover, a back cover, everything's good and ready to just go to the printer. That's Winston. And and so I told Winston on issue 2, I said, "Hey, I found this guy online. What do you think?" And that was Tom Hoskinson. And he's like, "That might really be your guy."
Mhm.
And I had no idea how much he is my guy because he was doing this small 3-page Wonder Woman story, but what he didn't put in it were these wide shots that you need for a fantasy book for scope and the epic nature. And if you look at that page that might be on the Kickstarter right in front of you, and you see like the establishing shot of Swamp Town right there. If I send you the full res of that image, especially the ink stuff before Vittorio started coloring it, this fool thinks he's freaking Jeff Darrow. I'm like, "What are you doing, man? You're drawing, like, little independent, like, hatchwork on the roofs," and he's in there, like, putting little, like, people in boats, and
Mhm.
the detail work is ridiculous. I sent it to a friend of mine who was gonna help us with a Kickstarter video, and he spent time just zooming in on the art and seeing how far he could zoom in on the art and find details. I'm like, "Dude, Tom, you don't need to be drawing that detailed," and Tom just wants to.
Yeah.
And then you give it to Vittorio, and Vittorio is enhancing the rain droplets there. He's going into those sconces with the fires, and he's adding that stuff. He's just bringing the whole thing together, including that mist that's in
Mhm.
there. That's one of my favorite pages because at the end of the day, like, that is a Tom Hoskinson story page. I wrote close up on Finnegan's hand picking up a rock, 3 shot, in the rain, like, there's a mood shot, there's dialogue in that panel. And then that 3rd panel has dialogue in it, but I wanted an extreme wide of a town on stilts that looked like where, like, ruffians would be, right? Like, they're going
Mhm.
to this town to pick a fight so that they can start telling people, like, they hear the prophecies here, and Paul just has to not die in that fight. So, you need, like, that's like a Mos Eisley, right? That's like the Mos
Yeah.
Eisley type place where scumbags live. And then you have a wide shot at the bottom of the 3 of them in screen direction, walking in a consistent screen direction left to right. I I I didn't choose to silhouette it. I didn't choose some of that stuff. That's Tom Hoskinson. That's just great tone, great storytelling. He's an awesome storyteller on his own. And then I don't wanna spoil the next, like, 2 pages from here, but the actual fight is really between Sheetara and somebody else
Mhm.
while Paul tries not to die. And Tom's going the extra mile, and he's entertaining himself by adding little storylines in the background of other fighters. I'm like, "What are you doing?" So you don't just get, like, the A storyline, you get a B and a C storyline
Mhm.
that continue through panels with ancillary side characters that may or may not even be in the script. That's just Tom Hoskinson just visually telling stories. Dude, I love this guy.
No,
Freaking
that
love
is
that dude.
yeah, dude. That it's awesome when you can find a creator that you can just mesh with so well.
He's awesome.
Yeah, that enhances what you're creating. Now, speaking of greatness, let's check out the greatness within the rewards of this project. You know, when I was reading issue 1, I really loved the beats within it. One of my favorite things was the way the title was thrown within the script. There was a part where it's like only fools believe in, and then it's like hero of the prophecy. And I was
The
like, man,
hero of
that
the
is
prophecy.
such a chef kiss moment.
Thanks.
We have digital copies of issue 2 coming out off the press at $5. You can get a printed copy coming in at 10, signed copies at $20, and then we have different variants at 20 as well. The manga version, as well as both covers.
Yeah, the manga version, this is the last chance you're gonna get it, and Kira's amazing. She's a college student. I found her doing manga artwork on Instagram. Her cousin, her aunt, and I went to high school together,
Mhm.
and she was a background in issue 1, and she's like, "I wanna get this issue 1 for my cousin who loves comics," and she does art, and I was like, "Send me some of her art." And so she sent me the Instagram, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" She has, like, 50, 60,000 followers doing this manga art, but I don't think she's ever been commissioned for anything. So I
Mhm.
said, she's doing the variant for issue 2." And so I commissioned her to do this variant for issue 2, and Kira's just so gracious, and she's just awesome, and I can't wait to send her copies of her issue. I wanna make prints of that cover, but that manga cover is something I wanted to do. I always wanted to do a manga cover. I love
Yeah.
manga, and I think it'd be cool to do manga covers for each issue, like, but, but Kira was awesome, and I
Hmm.
love that manga cover she did 'cause it's really funny. While we have this kind of Frank Frazetta-y cover for the A cover, I love that there's a fun
Yeah.
manga cover for the B cover.
Some other cool and fun items. You know, we have the collectible Finnegan coin.
Yeah.
We have a comic book stand plus issue. The whole damn enchilada. And then another cool thing we were talking backstage, last but not least, getting drawn into issue 3.
That's the good
So
reward.
yeah, what can people out there expect when getting drawn into the next issue?
I don't like when people pay $250, $300 to get put into a comic and they're, like, in a crowd shot in the background and they don't have dialogue or anything like, that just doesn't feel like I don't think it's respectful. I
Hmm.
think if somebody's gonna give you, you know, a 250, $300 to be in a comic book, put them in the freaking comic. Like, that image that you just saw for that reward is my roommate from college, Kevin, who paid to be in the issue too, and he's in a couple panels. I'm not gonna say what he's doing, but it's really funny. And, it looks like Kevin, and he that shot is a close up, like, he is close up in frame, and so, if you do the drawn into reward, which is my favorite reward, Tom's gonna give you the star treatment. He's gonna draw you real close in frame, and then I'm gonna go and give you some dialogue, make you a character. There's characters that show up in issue 3 and on that need to be inhabited. I need to give them personality, I need to give them faces. I have them, they're in the script. What do they look like? Maybe they look like you, but
Find out for
you
300 bucks.
find out for $300. That being said, I'm the worst businessman in the world. I love these characters so much that I'll miss them, and I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, well, he was in issue 2 because he paid to be in issue 2, but I kinda need that character to come back in issue 5." "Hey, this story beat here, you know who should be in this story beat here in issue 6? We should bring those people back." So, like, you may not actually be paying to just be a one you'll pay once, but you may not just end up in one issue, like, I issue 6, there's a battle, like, they take on the castle in issue 6 through some
Mm.
haphazard way. They managed to get this foolhardy plan rolling, and they've got this army of all the different kingdoms behind them that they've united to get behind the hero of the prophecy, who's a fraud, and that means some of the past characters get cameos again in issue 6 because it's a massive assault on the freaking castle to overthrow this evil wizard, like and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this person can show back up again, and this" they don't pay extra for that. I need those characters, you know?
You
So,
know, I really
it's a good
loved
investment.
the different Easter eggs too. I mean, it felt like there was a Transformer Easter egg at one point.
Mhm.
Um, he
That's
wrestles
Marcelo. Marcelo threw that in there, and I was like, "Don't get
Crusher.
us sued. Don't get us sued, bro."
Crusherella looked a little bit like Goro.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
she got the Goro thing.
yeah. I love the little nods to everything that was just great back in the 80s and 90s. So I can only expect what the later issues in this series are going to entail. How many issues are you guys looking to have? Are you wrapping it up with 6 or?
Yeah, 6. 6 issues. 6 issues wraps it up, and what happens from there like, I have another book called Super Action Man, which is like G.I. Joe, but it's really like if G.I. Joe was a bunch of idiots. It's not Team America because Team America is, like, really amazing and hilarious and cynical, but it's very South Parky, and that's the talent of Trey Parker, Matt Stone is like that. Um, to me, Super Action Man is like Rambo plus G.I. Joe and really silly and stupid if Michael Bay directed it. So,
I
like,
love it.
that book's drawn and that's kinda like a love letter to the US because I'm a massive patriot and I love my country. I just don't love my country right now. So, like, what the F? And, I think if you read Sam, the Super Action Man comic, you'll get the vibes of a G.I. Joe comic,
Hmm.
but it's also kinda silly. Like, I have an ex-American Gladiator type character. It's National Gladiators in my book, and, like, his weapon is rolling in a ball, like the Atmosphere. In American Gladiators, like, that was that rollerball type sport was his thing, and so when he gets to, like, rolling on the bad guys, like, that's his weapon. It's like, "Let's go." And, and Super Action Man's a buffoon, and there's all these different kinda characters with different backgrounds and different specialties, like in G.I. Joe, but in my team, they hate each other. They
Mhm.
just it's America, like, it's a bunch of desperate
America,
people from
fuck
different
yeah.
backgrounds, and they hate each other, and they're not all smart. Most of them aren't. And that's the book, and they're trying to take over they're trying to take out the equivalent of Cobra, this, like, crazy international global terrorist network of, like, supervillains, and they're just weirdos, and I love that book, and that'll be out for Comic-Con this summer. And then we have a sci-fi book that I'm not involved in that Geeksky's putting out. So like, um, I don't know. They all kind of reference everything I grew up with. Like, if there's a flashback in the Sam book, it flashes back, but it should look like a Larry Hama book, like GI Joe book. Like it should look like like those panels of the flashback should look like an
Mhm.
80s. Like it's a flashback. It should look like the 80s GI Joe comics, that style. I don't know. You're gonna see a lot of new stuff in the Hear the Prophecy that you're gonna be like, "Oh shit, he took like that's a shout out to this and a shout out to that." And everything from Dragonlance to ElfQuest to it's all scrambled in here. Nothing new, just a bunch of refreshed old stuff
I love it.
put
Give me 2
together.
seconds. My TV, for whatever reason, just randomly just
You don't
turned
wanna get
on.
sued, dude. What is that,
Yeah,
Wedding
I,
Crashers?
I don't know. I think it's Wedding Crashers, but it just randomly turns on. So I'm mortified in the middle of this interview, like, oh my god, this is the worst possible
Yo,
time for
that's an
this
ad
TV.
though. Don't worry about that. That's an ad. Like,
But I
they're
just
not
don't
gonna
want it
get you
picking
for
up.
that.
I don't want it to pick up in my microphone. Like so,
Oh, yeah.
with the microphone, any background noise will be like staticky sounding.
Yeah. So
So
I'll
get
sing a song while you fix that. I'm not gonna sing a song.
one sec.
That would be the biggest mistake if I just start singing a song. So instead, I'm gonna rap. No, I'm not gonna rap. I'm not gonna rap. He's gonna be right back.
Note to self
And
too. I should
that's
keep
the
the remote, probably on my desk, right? Somewhere where it's just like I can easily. A lot of my setup is automated to where I could just like click off real quick and it's good. It would help though if my remote was right here, so I could have just been like, bam.
dude, I love it because like I'm just lazy. I'm like, here's a ring light. This is more interesting. I don't know how to do any of this yes stuff. Welcome to
Oh man,
Geekscape.
dude, for my other setup, I had these Elgato key lights, $200 a pop.
Shut the fuck up.
Nano leaf lights, so it was like voice activated. You could like do everything from your phone. And now I'm like in the sticks with like just a ring light and a little Govee light on the side.
I've just realized that you're what Claw looks like in Inspector Gadget. Like, you finally see your face because that setup looked like the over shoulder on Claw, where you just see his hand and all those
Mhm.
screens and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, you're Claw from Inspector Gadget. And now we see your face. And you're like, damn it, Gadget. You
So,
know?
the beauty of this is though, post production, I can edit this video, and that'll never happen. So that's the beauty of editing and technology in nowadays. So,
Bro, I sang a
Jonathan,
song.
oh,
You gotta keep that shit.
we're gonna keep that.
I didn't
Yes.
sing a song.
Oh,
But
Jonathan,
I
for anyone
joked
that
about it. I
might
covered
be
for you, bro. I don't want you Gavin dead air, bro.
for anyone who might be on the ropes about backing this book, what would you like to say to them directly to kind of help push them over that hump?
Honestly, if you love comics, I tried to make a comic that goes toe to toe with some of the indies out there, like, and I gave copies to Brian Gavon, and I said, "That's a page influenced by you, Brian Gavon," and I gave copies to everybody. Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee has this, Liefeld. All those guys were people who, like, pushed and were like, "You should be doing comics. You should get into it." David Bohr was somebody who's like, "You gotta do this, man. I love the artwork. You gotta do this." So the indie people were people who pushed me to make this comic, and that's my community that I built through Geekscape, and I just love them, and not that not that I'm the equivalent of a lot of those talents, but I think that if you give indie books a chance, give my book a chance, and if you love wrestling, fantasy, comedy, mistaken identity type stuff, this book might actually be your favorite book. I'm not being facetious. If you like fantasy and wrestling, and you think that Daniel Warren Johnson isn't going to make another one of his books, which are better, this is a book for you. And the good news is, for the price point, You can get Daniel Warren Johnson's wrestling fantasy book, and you can get my wrestling fantasy book. And my wrestling fantasy book's 6 issues of, like, hilarity and silliness, and, and that's really the pitch. It's like, if you like romance, there's not really romance in my book. Not for you. If you I can't say this book is if you like superheroes, there ain't no superheroes in this
Yeah,
book. Probably not for you. But the good news is you can get more than one comic book.
it's
Right
true.
now, one of my favorite comics, I love the G.I. Joe book. I absolutely love, The Skinbreaker.
Mhm.
David Finch and Kirkman Skinbreaker. I love that book, man. It's awesome. I love Absolute Batman. I try and read
Oh, it's so
everything.
good, dude.
Yep,
Absolute Batman. Did you
and
just read
Absolute
issue
Wonder Woman.
4?
Yeah, I gotta get to the shop and pick it up.
Insane.
Yeah, I'm ready for that
Insane.
storyline. I like the Bane storyline. I'm ready for that storyline to wrap up and see what else is going.
With the
But
Joker.
yeah, but I read comics every night. I've been reading comics since I was single digits in age,
Mhm.
and I just some of my favorite memories are comics. A lot of my heroes are all comics people, so I'm just trying to find a little place for myself, making comics, telling stories, keep making films, keep directing and writing stuff, but it's really hard to make a film and make TV. A lot of people need to be involved, and a lot of money needs to be involved. Hear the Prophecy, Super Action Man, the comics I wanna make. These are things that can make for a few $1,000s, and all I ask is, like, a little bit of money back to pay for them. Breaking even, I'm down with that. I just want these things to exist because I wake up with crazy voices in my head of things I wanna say, and I want a place to put them. And that's what's so gracious about the people who buy my book is, thank you for helping me put a place to put them, and hopefully makes your day better when you read them. Hopefully you smile when you when you read my pro wrestling fantasy adventure love letter to my brother.
I love that. So, Jonathan, I know this is your first time on the show, but I always love asking for a piece of advice for anyone out there listening and what you're up to outside of creating. So, for the aspiring writer out there looking to dive into their series for the first time, what would be your biggest piece of advice to offer them?
I was telling this to somebody the other day, because I see where some of people that I promoted on Geekscape over the last 20 years have taken their careers and where they're at now. And m a regret I definitely have is, I put out the first Super Action Man indie book through an indie outlet called 215 Press out of Philly back in 2010. I wrote Miami Vice for Lion Forge in 2014. I was learning to write comics 15 years ago, 10 years ago, but I didn't write mine. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? And I
Yeah.
didn't invest in myself, like I said, soup to nuts, where I'm taking on the financial responsibility of paying for this book and then kickstarting it. I didn't take a risk on myself. I was letting out somebody else publish the book or somebody else that up, and those books ran the course and they ended. I don't want my books and my stories to run their course and they ended and end. When the Universal rights to the license on Miami Vice ran out, I had planned an entire additional storyline. But too bad, Jonathan, you don't own it.
Yeah.
If you wanna tell your story and you wanna own it, start betting down now. Let people watch you get better at writing comics. Don't be afraid, like, nothing's really perfect. Let them watch you get better at writing comics. Let them watch you get better at making comics. As you learn, you're gonna get better. Um, so don't be afraid of that. I really sincerely wish that I had started doing this 10, 15 years ago. Here the Prophecy storyline would be complete. I would have a full booth table. I mean, I've had a Comic-Con booth in San Diego since 2010, and
Hmm.
we sell shirts, we promote the podcast. That's when I also should have had my comics. Last summer, I had Hear the Prophecy. I had 1 issue of a comic on my table. This summer, we'll have 3 or 4 issues of a comic on my table.
That's what
My
I'm
dream
talking about.
my dream is to have 10, 15 in some trades, like, if I'd have started that stuff and if I would have actually, like, not let the fear kick in and, "Oh, let's wait for somebody else to help you. Oh, let's wait for help. Let's wait for help. Let's wait for help." If you if I would have let that happen in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, I would have a full rack of comics right now and just who knows where that IP would have landed outside of comics? Who knows where those dreams would have gone? But I'm doing it now, and I'm excited about it. And the truth is, I started it on my own. Went out and found my own artists, went out and found my own collaborators.
Mm-hmm.
And what you find out is as soon as I started doing that, I could reach out to people that I was friends with and say, "Hey, how can I find a letterer? I don't know how to do it. How
Yeah.
can I find about this artist? Is there a way that I can get a variant cover from that person? How much does that run? Is that in like even if you can't afford it, like start answering those questions." And man, it's been awesome. It's been really awesome. Like eh, having the people help me because I knew nothing 2 years ago, and now we're on issue 3 of Hear the Prophecy. Super Action Man's done. The sci-fi stuff's going. We're just making new comics, man, and hopefully we can build some more momentum and end up with like a nice library of things that we can be proud of.
That's
It's
awesome,
been
man.
yeah. You just got to do it. I'm sorry, and it's so generic. You just got to do it. But whatever you're telling yourself to not do it, that stuff goes away really quickly as you realize the
Yeah.
community will help you. The community will help you. I'm the community. You're the community, Cody. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Cody's the community. You go to a comic convention and any of those indie creators with their thing, with their little booths in Artist Alley, that's your community. And those
Yep.
people will help you. Like it's insane that they'll help me, you know? Shannon Eric Denton, my editor on he's worked for everybody. He's worked for Wildstorm, he's worked for everybody, and he helps me a lot. And it's just because I dropped by his booth at Comic-Con and I find out what he's doing on the indie stuff, this community is amazing.
Yeah. It is.
Amazing. But I
It
have
is.
to but you have to take that step, man. It's great. It's not that scary once you do it.
When I first started interviewing, it was because of the community. I was talking to you backstage. A lot of my knowledge with OBS and doing the animated backgrounds and everything like that came from Twitch. And I reached out to one creator, and after that, I remember putting on Twitter a post like, "Hey, I want to get some more people on." And I had like 100 people comment on that thing. And I used to do interviews every single day. Sometimes I do 2 to 3 interviews a day. Your interview 501, and that's me deleting a bunch of interviews that were creators eventually turned into rotten apples.
Wait,
Um,
really?
yeah,
That's
over the course of just a few years, 3 years.
They
We've been
get
at
canceled
this.
or what?
Uh, you know, just people who, for lack of
You
better
don't wanna
words,
risk associating a
yeah,
brand
yeah,
with, yeah.
the people who just take a bad path, and it's like, well, that's not a path that I want to be associated with, that I
Yeah.
want to go down, so we need to cut ties. In that same aspect, I don't want to promote that video, like,
Yeah.
so
No, it's important. Like, I will live my life, Cody, in a way that you will never have to delete
yeah, no,
issue
you're good, you're good, you're
episode
good.
501. You don't know what I'm gonna do 10 years from now, bro.
Because that's the beauty of podcasting and creating. You fail enough to where you learn. And I've started learning how to properly vet people, how to properly go through stuff, and be like, okay, this person seems like an okay person. Um, you get to a point where it becomes second nature. And all it takes is failing along the way. And what you were saying earlier, wishing you would have started sooner. I wish that for a lot of things, but I also realized like maybe it was our time to start when we did, right? We had
Mhm.
all that experience, all that knowledge, to propel us, and to push us harder. So maybe you're right where you need to be, with
Sure.
everything.
Well,
Um,
I mean, if I'd have made bad stuff back then, like, okay, I'll own it. Like, I would have made bad stuff. Like the Sandbook that I put out in 2010, like, it's got some stuff I don't love, but it also is Ace Continuato's first book, and Ace is doing great work for a lot of people right now.
mhm.
And Ace is like my first book was that. Fernando Pinto did a story for me called Loudmouth. Fernando's doing some amazing stuff. That was his no, I don't think it was his first published book, but like Fernando and I have had a friendship for 20 plus years. Um, do I love that stuff? No, it's rough, man. The stuff I make now is better, and the stuff I make 10 years from now is going to be better than this. But you got to get on that road and start walking, baby, or you ain't going to move. You're not going to go anywhere. That's a big fear, is like learning in public. But
Mhm.
I don't know, I ran around as Super Action Man in my Speedo at Comic-Con a lot, and, like, I don't
You
have
ain't afraid of anything after that, I bet.
yeah, not really, not really. Uh, uh, we're on this planet for such a short amount of time, just YOLO it, baby.
Get in a speedo while you can, baby.
YOLO, baby.
So, Jonathan, what are you up to outside of creating? You know, what TV shows are you watching? What books are you reading? You were talking about manga. What manga are you reading?
I'm not actually reading any manga, so I'm a disgrace to everybody. Um, you and I are parents to young creatures. That is where my focus is. A lot is
Mm.
making sure that she's dressed in my neighbor Totoro stuff. And I I'm reading a ton of comics. On the Switch too, I'm playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. I love that game a lot. It is Mario Odyssey with destructible worlds. I think that stuff is fun. It's a great relief for me. Like whenever my brain is all crunchy and I
Yeah,
can't think anymore, I just sit down with some Donkey Kong Bonanza and smash my way through a bunch of stuff. On the comics, I do think Skinbreaker is phenomenal. David Finch has worked on this book for years, and there's like a gallery edition that's bigger, more expensive, but the Kirkman writing is simple and it's clean. It feels like an Avatar level of immersive fantasy, but I enjoy this story about generations in a single tribe, and the creatures are all unique, and it's David Finch's artwork, and David Finch is a master, and it's amazing seeing what he can do. Obviously, Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman as well, it really are testaments to how iconic those characters are and how dynamic they are, in the sense that Absolute Batman might be looked back as the same kind of corner turn that Dark Knight Returns was for this
yeah,
character, right? Like, I don't think Batman's sales were that good in the early '80s, you know, and, um, Superman coming out of the Christopher Reeve movie and then the sequel and everything, like, Superman was the marquee character, and people just kinda thought about Batman as the na 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 1960s show, but Dark Knight Returns really gave that character a new definition. You carry it into Arkham Asylum. You have somebody like Alan Moore take it from, you know, Frank Miller, and then you jump Tim Burton into it. So it's really these creators reinventing these characters, and I see it happening again with Zack Snyder. And what's impressive about that is Zack Snyder he'd written the traditional Batman. I was like, "Hey, I love his traditional Batman. What else does he have to say about this?" And then you start seeing the designs, and you're like,
yeah,
"Okay, this Nick Rigoda stuff is cool, it's loud, but is it right? I don't know, should he be beefy? Should he be having weapons like that all over his body?" Like, and then you read it, and you're like,
yep,
"This is fucking rock and roll
yep,
punk
yep,
rock,
dude. It's fucking
badass shit."
amazing.
And I love that they reinvented the character yet again. I love what they did with Wonder Woman and Absolute Wonder Woman. And that's what I'm kinda reading. It breaks my heart because 'cause I'm a Marvel man. I've always been a Marvel person. I love those characters. I think they're super romantic and human, and, but this is these things happen in leaps and bounds, and they kinda
Hmm.
leapfrog each other. I think DC's got the spotlight right now. I thought Superman was phenomenal. That James Gunn movie was I thought it said everything right about Superman, but I also thought that about Fantastic Four: First Steps,
Yeah,
and I wonder about Fantastic Four and what its cultural relevance is because of what the dynamic of those characters are, right? And X-Men will be topical as long as people are minorities and people are treated as such and treated as outsiders. You can have an X-Men story as long as there is something to be said about loyalty and patriotism. You can have a Captain America that resonates, and duty. You can have a Captain. You can anger with the Hulk. Like there's so much that you could be. Spider-Man, of course, is the most human. Like he's us going through the trials and tribulations of being a human in this world and power and responsibility. But with the Fantastic Four, I've really thought, how do you make a Fantastic Four post John Byrne's 80s Fantastic Four? Because so much of it is the 1961 nuclear family
hmm,
and sort of a post World War II, post Korean War reaffirmation of the American dream family. And does that even matter anymore when that nuclear family is known widely to not be much more than a fictitious ideal, and what do these characters actually say? Um, I've thought about that a lot with Fantastic Four because I love Fantastic Four. Where's the cultural resonance in 2025 to the Fantastic Four? And I thought that movie, by being first steps, by being about Franklin in the creation of a family and all that, I thought it was beautiful and tragic. There were
Mhm.
some things I didn't enjoy, but almost no notes on that film, and I don't think a lot of people agree with that. I think some people are like, "Oh, I wanted this, I wanted that," but sure, I whatever. Like, I would love to see Alicia Masters because I think Ben Grimm is a beautifully tragic character, and I think having Alicia Masters, uh, see him for that is a huge
And what'd
character
you think about
moment.
the beard? Did you like the beard?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, I'm fine with the passage of time,
I
I'm
like
fine
the
with a lot of
beard.
stuff, but, like, if Natasha Lyonne had played Alicia Masters, or if you would've had Alicia Masters in the movie, you could have taken the things that Ben was going through in that narrative one step further to some level, like, and keep in mind that may be the wrong move, right? Because the thing that you're losing is family in that movie. That's what above all, yes, the
Shout out
planet,
Vin
yes,
Diesel.
everything, but, like, Galactus is going to take away your family, and he's gonna take away Franklin. Like, that is what you lose. But I feel like if Ben had found a love
Mhm.
in that narrative, he would have lost that as well, right? And I like what they do with Johnny. I just like that movie a lot. I don't know.
I
I'm
like the Silver Surfer too. I thought that was
loved it.
I thought they did a phenomenal job with that.
It gave Johnny something to do and it proved that Johnny's just not some idiot. Because Johnny wouldn't have been on the ship if Johnny's an idiot.
Yeah.
Johnny's smart as hell, and he Rosetta Stoned the Silver Surfer's language, and he's smart, and he deserves to be on the team. Um, I thought that movie was no notes. I don't know, man. I read a ton of comics, which is insane.
You get a chance
But
to check out the Infernal Hulk?
you know what? I really enjoyed the storyline that was a bit horrific going into Infernal Hulk. I don't mind the storyline before that, where Banner's kind of piloting Hulk like a ship. But I'm kind of worn out. Like, I love Marvel's characters above any others.
Mhm.
The Marvel characters are my favorite pantheon. I just don't know if it's working for me. In my favorite book on the stands for Marvel, Ultimate Spider-Man,
Yeah.
they pulled it. And I don't understand, and I get it, like, but that was the book that was working for me. And I think all the creators are talented, but sometimes 1 plus 1 doesn't turn into 3. And in comics, the cool alchemy of creating comics is 1 plus 1 equals 3. You know,
Mhm.
when you get a great writer and a great artist and a great team with the editing and everything, those all combine to more than their parts. And that's the beautiful thing about storytelling and collaboration is everything should equal more than its separate parts. And sometimes I read the books, and I like Ryan North's Fantastic Four as well. I think
Mhm.
he's really throwing a lot of problems at the Fantastic Four that go to the basis of go to the core of science, and they're smart scripts. I read the Fantastic Four comic from Ryan North, and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be
I
able
need
to
to get
finish
into the Maker Fantastic Four storyline.
it.
I
Yeah,
heard that thing was insane.
yeah. I mean, I remember following all that stuff from when it was Ultimate Fantastic Four, and it was the
Yeah.
Millar book. Um, Yeah, I don't know. I hold out hope for Marvel, and I know Marvel will be back, but they're not. I don't feel like they're here now, and I'm not gonna talk trash on them because everybody's freaking talented. It just right now, I don't feel like it's adding to more than the sum of its parts. Like
Mhm.
maybe this artist should be over there, and that writer should be over there, and that editor should be in charge of that line, and this and that. Like I feel like the composition's a little off right now as far as my perspective as a reader, but I know you keep trying. I know that I'm not counting out the house of ideas. They're my number 1. they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna hit their absolute Batman version with one of their characters, and so they're back to the races. I mean, remember when Ultimate Spider-Man came out in the late '90s, they were selling the freaking file cabinets to keep the lights on. You know what I mean? Like they had filed that bankruptcy with Ike Perlmutter and his entire all those companies that were pulling Marvel down, right? Um, and Marvel was having trouble keeping the lights on, but now Marvel's kicking ass and they're part of
Yeah.
Disney. So don't count anybody out. Don't count creators out. I don't. I'm in the shop every week, and I try not to count anybody out. You know, you just have to find that one story. Sometimes a really amazing creator is on a book that it didn't click. Okay.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're on a book that you're like, holy shit, they were born to write this, or they were born to draw this. Wow. Like, yeah, shoot that into my veins right now. That's what I love about it.
You guys can find a book that clicks with you by checking out Hero of the Prophecy issue 2 in the link in the description and in the channel right now.
If you think it sucks, I'm Jonathan at Geekscape.net. Let me know if you think it sucks.
Leave them an email. Leave them a comment. It's an awesome book. I loved it. You will love it too. With that being said, it's time for us to wrap up. So I hope you all have a fantastic Monday. But most importantly, keep it geekly.